Oh, yes. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into Snow the Goalie, the only Flyers podcast, the People's Podcast, Players Podcast, Prognosticators Podcast, Pedialyte Podcast, the only Flyers podcast. We are back. And not only are we back, but we are back with none other than the proud papa of the bride. Bundy's here. Bundy, how you doing, fella?
Doing good, guys. Great to see you. Great to be back. I know you guys had an amazing night that night on draft night, tons of viewers, and I was able to sneak in for just a couple of minutes, but I was the least captivating interview, I can assure you, of that night. You guys had a great show that night, and I am a proud papa of the bride, and it was a great time, a great wedding, and really happy for both her and Will.
That's awesome. Anthony, how you doing? Man in the middle.
Yeah, I'm doing good. Doing good. It's been a nice quiet week for me, in the sense of not a lot of baseball, not a lot of hockey, not a lot of anything. It's been kind of a quiet week, so I'm good. But yeah, well, it's good to get back into the swing here. We have some stuff coming up. Do the show this week. We have one scheduled for next week. We have some interviews that we did at Dev Camp that we're going to start releasing. So, I'm excited. I'm excited. I think the summer's going to move rather fast before we get to opening night on October 9th and the home opener on October 13th. It's not that far away. It's
crazy. It's crazy.
I always say summer, Russ. I don't know if you get this yet, but I always say summer ends after July 4th when you have kids. Because you're starting to get ready back in the mindset. Look, at 2 weeks ago is July 4th. You're not too far from August now, right? Like another 10 days. Before you know
it's a month away.
Yeah.
Depending on the school district, you're about a month away from kids going back to school or teachers going back to school. So it's crazy. We're a month away. We're a month off of when schools ended, right? Mid-June-ish.
Yeah.
And now only a month left. It's crazy. I mean, we are officially at or past the midway point of the summer for most people. It is
for sure.
Bonkers.
Yeah.
Which means that we are getting ever so close to the start of Flyers hockey. Now, we have a lot to get into today. The NHL dropped the schedules on Wednesday. We'll get into some key takeaways from the Flyers because there are some really wild and sort of weird quirks in the Flyers schedule this year. We'll talk about some Dev Camp takeaways. As Ant mentioned, we had a litany of development camp interviews. I think we did 5. So we will be dropping one of those per week over the next few weeks, kind of gearing everybody up for the start of camp and kind of carrying us through the summer here. That includes Porter Martone, who you'll hear from today. That interview will go live on the Snow the Goalie YouTube channel. It'll also be available either on the end of this episode of the podcast or maybe as its own special bonus podcast. But we have Porter Martone, we had Jack Nesbitt, we had Carson Bjarnason, Oliver Bonk, and Alex Bump. So 5 guys for you to hear from. And guys, I know that usually we play an interview within the context of an episode, we react and all that. Without giving too much away, fair to say that across those 5 players, we got a lot out of them. Yeah, some hockey stuff, but we kind of got back to the bread and butter of getting to know these guys a little bit better and giving fans the insight and a little bit of a peek behind the curtain of who they are away from the ice.
100%. I thought that they were the one thing that I took away the most from those 5 interviews was the personalities. I can remember, and Bundy will tell you too, you go back, young kids coming into the league for the first time, even guys who've been, in dev camp for 1 or 2 seasons before, not always the greatest talkers. Not a lot of personality there. It's like a lot of times when you ask them questions, it's like pulling teeth. This group, it may have, who knows what they're going to be on the ice, but man, are they entertaining off the ice.
Yeah,
it's a fun group of kids. It's a really fun group of kids.
I think it's societal, Anthony, the way I got that too when I left those interviews the other day, thinking to myself, man, these guys really shared a lot. They were open. They were honest. I remember if I was playing and had some of the questions pepped at us in the format we did, I'd be nervous to answer them because I'd be afraid of what somebody would think of my answer. And these guys were great. We had one guy and said, what do you like? He said, I love Harry Potter. Well, I got news for you. I love Harry Potter movies too. I think they're great. But that's something that in 1993, and if Harry Potter existed, you wouldn't have a 21-year-old kid telling somebody for their pro hockey team that they like Harry Potter. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
sure. On
totally different. Yeah.
On top of that, and this has nothing to do with the 5 interviews we've done, but this is a perfect example. We're going to have an interview next week live on the show with Ty Murchison, who's not a big-time prospect, but he's going to play for the Phantoms this year. He was a 5th-round pick a few years ago. We're just talking a little bit about, his progression. California kid, played at a college at Arizona State, not really a big hockey school, so kind of talk about that as well, what it's going to be like now coming into the AHL. But I wanted to talk to him because he's really into musical theater. Hello! Who would have admitted that in the 90s, Bundy?
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's my point.
Yeah.
That's my whole point. Right.
Yeah.
And now it's so much more accepted because everybody has more of an open mind to be able to gauge young people's thoughts and feelings, and society's allowed for that transition to happen because people are more open and honest about things now. And I think people now, like, it's not like it was 30 years ago when hockey, and believe me, 30 years ago, it might seem like an eternity. It's not that long ago. I feels like it was 3 weeks ago that I went into my first Flyers training camp as a kid. And it's very vivid in my mind. So things have changed a lot, and there were certain things you didn't want to say or do. I remember Bob Clark, just talking about the way the innuendos of the sport. And I remember he said to us once, this is a joke, he said, if any of you guys win the Lady Bing, you're fucking out of here. And I'm thinking to myself, like, wow, you better not be the most gentlemanly player on the ice or you're out of this town.
Well, there were the jokes before the show about how many minutes would we be late. What was the over-under, like 5.5 minutes? I don't know what the over-under was on a Bundy bomb for today, but there we are at about the 6-minute, 40-second mark of the show. The Bundy bomb.
That's great. That's great.
But anyway, I think it's great though. I'm with Anthony on this too, and Russ, you touched on it. But I really think it's great. These guys are open and have really interesting lives that they're able to share with us and give a little glimpse of what. Like, I think, as you guys said, what goes behind the curtain. Not just the guy that laces up the skates on the ice and prepares to be a hockey player at night, but also the person that's behind that hockey player and what that brings to what that shapes that person to be. So it's really cool stuff.
Yeah,
so,
I know we're not doing the Bjarnason one today. I know we're putting out the Martone one today.
So good.
But Bjarnason had me in stitches. That kid had me in stitches that entire interview. That's I promise you that one coming in a couple weeks probably. That's a good one. That's a really, really good one.
I would say that of all of them, his might have been the most interesting because there are certain things that we like kind of poke and prod at, and then there was something that I noticed about a tattoo of his, and that like led to a really interesting kind of chat there. And then about like how that kind of broke off into a passion of his, like what he's doing late at night. And so you just, again, it's funny. We talked to somebody else from Flyers PR that day, and they're like, years ago, and like, listen, I know people are going to automatically make the connection here, but like Nolan Patrick, right, was like a really HR or a PR trained guy. Like he didn't give you a lot. And there were a lot of players from that same time period where they just would not give you anything, probably just out of fear of things getting twisted and taken the wrong way, like Bundy said. And this group is just not that, which is awesome. Like these guys, as you get to hear these interviews over the next few weeks, like they were just a lot of fun. And you get to kind of get the feeling of what it's like to be a young player with aspirations of making this team. And in fairness, some of those guys probably have a better chance of making the opening night roster than others. I don't know if you guys had anything else that you wanted to touch on from Dev Camp. I know that we didn't do a show last week, but it sounds like Nesbitt had some standout moments in the scrimmage. Obviously, Martone is a guy that everybody thinks is going to have a legit chance to make the team. Alex Bump, I think, maybe has the inside track of all the guys that were at Dev Camp, including like the Luchenkos of the world who didn't suit up due to injury. Bump to me kind of seems like a guy who probably has a really good chance. Ant, was there anything else that you had heard around Dev Camp or any other names you want to kind of float out there for people to kind of have an eye on going into camp, in a month or so?
No, not at all. And I think that you've basically just covered. I think Alex Bump is the guy that probably is going to get a gig. The Flyers coaches and staff won't say that. You got to earn your spot, right? They don't want to put it out too early. But from everything I hear behind the scenes, like they are very excited about him and think that he's going to be a player in the NHL, and not just a guy, but a useful player, very good player. And they're excited to get him into camp and get him on the roster. So, that's the one that I think is probably the most telling from development camp.
One of the comments here ties that to Tyson Forster, the injury to Forster. Is there any updates on that, guys? I've read a lot of different types of things on Twitter, or X rather, that somebody said he's going to be ready for camp. I've heard other people saying it won't be till perhaps early into the new year.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of conflicting reports, and I don't think anybody really knows. Do you have anything to report on that, Ant, at all?
I don't have anything new to report on it.
Right.
But I will stick by the reporting I already put out, that they don't think it's good, and they think it's going to be a bit before he's ready to play.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in fairness,
I'll go stick with that for now.
Ann had the report out there about, was it the bicep, right? And then Danny came out and he had the presser where he said something about an infection in the elbow, and it seemed like there was an update a few days ago that kind of talked about the elbow again. Remains to be seen, right? Guys,
so just because, here's what I'll say about that.
Yeah, go ahead.
And without giving away too much, when you have an infection, which he did have an infection, just because that's where the infection started, doesn't necessarily mean that's where it was contained.
Or vice versa. I mean, you could theoretically have an issue with a bicep or a tricep, and and the infection winds up in your elbow. That's not unheard of. Okay.
Yeah.
So 3 names that I think most people are kind of talking about as ones to have an eye on going into camp are Martone, Bump, and Luchenko. And so I want to throw this to you guys, we're in the middle of July, but if I gave you those 3 names and I said, based on roster slots, let's just assume that Forster is not ready for the start of the season. How many of those guys do you think ultimately could end up on the opening night roster? Like, if everything is equal, how many of those 3 would you say, yeah, that's a pretty good likelihood that it happens, out of Luchenko, Martone, and Bump? And I guess I'll go to you first.
Max 2.
Yeah.
I'd say 1 for sure, possibly 2. I don't think all 3 are going to make it. I don't think Jet Luchenko is going to start the year with the Flyers. Now, it comes into camp, it blows him away. Maybe he does. I know that the Flyers wish that the new CBA were in place this year, because they'd love for Jet Luchenko to be the one guy that you're allowed to say you're able to play first rounder, able to play in the American Hockey League before the age of 20. They'd love for that to happen, because I think that they're a little bit like, they don't feel like you're going to develop a lot playing on a weak team in Guelph. They're not a very good team there. What is he going to do there that he hasn't already done in junior hockey? They would like for him to take that next step competition wise. But the good news is that Guelph won't be a good team. Maybe he gets traded in junior hockey, ends up on a better team. If not, if the Phantoms are better, maybe he makes a longer run with the Phantoms. At the end of the season, you get some more time in the AHL. So, it's not the end of the world, but it's also not the greatest situation.
The NHL club can't have any kind of an impact on that, though, right? In terms of a trade with Junior, there's nothing that they could theoretically do to try to, influence.
There's always backroom conversations of some kind,
sure,
right? But it's not. Those teams are run on their own, and they make the decisions for their teams what they see, they think is best, and how they see fit.
Bundy, I don't know if you have a read on these 3 guys and how many of them you think have a realistic shot of making it. But is there, you could throw that out, but is there also the thought of you only want to have a limited number of these guys that will be making their NHL debut at the start of the season? Or do you think you just go by whoever impresses the most out of camp?
Well, I think because last year, and I mean, obviously Martone's at a higher level than Luchenko because he was picked higher in a deeper draft. But I think for sure you're going to see, at least if he doesn't make the team and come out of camp saying he's looking great, he's at least, I think, going to get at least that look for the 9 games to start the season. But again, I don't know if him going back to junior, I don't think is as much of an option as maybe him going a college route if he doesn't make the Flyers. Mm-hmm. I don't know that for sure. I'm just speculating what might be the best avenue for him if they don't think he can play. But I'm going with Anthony on this, and I think it's going to be two guys. And the two guys I think that make it for opening night are Bump and Martone. And that's not a shot against Lutsenko at all. I think they have a thing in their mind that he needs a good year of development for what he's looking at down the road and what they want him to be. And I think that avenue is best suited for him being able to play a lot of minutes against better competition he's going to see in Guelph.
I'll tell you that Martone playing in the World Championships with NHL players is a big thing. It's a big deal. He got to spend a month playing hockey with NHL players and really kind of getting a sense. So in a lot of ways, what he's already had the ability to do is what usually that 9-game trial period at the beginning of a season is for teams, for young prospect players. Porter Martone's already had that in a sense, playing international competition with NHL players. So he might have a leg up on the ability to make the team. And now look, the Flyers are going to sit down with him and his agent. They're going to have a conversation and they're going to really try and figure out what's the best course of action for him. But guess what? Like if he's not going to try and make it in the NHL and go to college, that decision has to be made like
before he goes to training camp. Right. Yeah. He can't go to,
like,
sorry,
really,
I didn't clarify that either because a lot of people are talking about it. You can't be a professional and then go to a college afterwards. You have to maintain your amateur status to do so. So you can't have been paid. You can't have played a game in the NHL and then go back to college. It's just not feasible. So he can't take that 9-game tryout, which the Flyers have in their hip pocket if they want to use that to give him an extra look, as he will as a high first-round pick. And they'll be able to take a look at that situation. But do I think college route is where he's looking? No, I don't. I think he's looking at making the Philadelphia Flyers for opening night roster. That's my guess, and that's what I think the Philadelphia Flyers want. I agree with Anthony. Also, I think that experience that he got in the World Championships was huge for him to be able to see like Sidney Crosby, guys like that in action, being their teammates, getting a taste of the next level, I think has helped him exponentially in the last 3 months.
It's a good spot to move to, I guess, the next big thing, which was the schedule that dropped. Because people, I don't know, guys, like it feels like people, for whatever reason, really cared about it. I'm not saying that you shouldn't care. I was excited about the potential of the schedule dropping, if for no other reason than I needed to know if we were going to have to go down there for like 7 games and 9 nights or not. And it appears as though we don't have to. I think the worst stretch of the season is 10 games and 17 days. But big takeaway for me that I went, what the hell is this? You take 2 out of your first 3 games of the season are against the reigning Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. You start on the road against Florida and against Carolina, and then you're home against Florida. How the hell did the Flyers end up playing the reigning Stanley Cup champions 2 out of the first 3 games? Can anybody explain that?
Well, and not only that, and then go one further than that, Russ, and then their 4th game is against the President's Trophy winning Winnipeg Jets. Granted, it's in Philadelphia. It's a rough start for their schedule. Like, you know how we talk about the rough stretches that they've had in March the last couple seasons where they faced a lot of really good teams in March? Well, guess what? The first month of the season for the Flyers is brutal. Like, I looked at this calendar, looked at the schedule, looked at the calendar, and was like, oh man, like they are going to be tested early. The one good thing I will say about it,
I'm actually I'll bring it up here on the screen for those who might have missed it.
So the one good thing I will say about this is if you're going to play a lot of good teams, you'd rather play them early in the season when they're not ramped up to that next level that you get to after the trade deadline, which is why those March games were like the Bataan Death March for the Flyers over the last couple of seasons, and you lose all those games in a row, or mostly all those games in a row. It's better to play good teams early because that's when you can kind of catch them. Look, this opener in Florida, it's the Panthers' 2nd game. So obviously, I'm going to say something that's going to sound stupid, but I hope it makes sense. This could go one of 2 ways. Either I know that's how
all games go.
Yeah,
you lose.
That's the stupid part. But let me explain what I was about to say. So Florida has their opening night game. A lot of times, the defending Stanley Cup champion has the hangover game as their opener, and if that is what happens for the Panthers, then the Flyers are in a lot of trouble in game 2. right?
Yeah.
But if the Panthers come out and have that kick-ass game in their opener, then maybe the Flyers catch them napping a little bit against a perceived weaker team, right? And you kind of catch them a little bit in that game. But otherwise, yeah, this is a brutal start to the season for the Flyers. Yeah, go ahead, Bundy.
No, I mean, you could look at the schedule and be like, oh my God, you could technically, and I think the Flyers are a better team. It's not like you look back in the past, but that could be an 0-5 start if you're looking at any other team. You take any team in the league playing those first 5 games. Remember, October and November, Minnesota last year? Remember how good they were?
Yeah.
Like, they were freak shows. They were tops of the league. So, I mean, those first 5 games are really, really important start to the season for this team, and you don't want to get behind the 8 ball. That's an opportunity for the Flyers to kind of jump the shark a little bit. If you have a good start, you can really pave your way, I think, to some really good stuff as the schedule moves along.
Well, even like the Islanders, you think are going to be better. The Predators are going to look to try to rebound off of what was an atrocious and underperforming season a year ago. The Penguins, nobody knows. But like that, there are really like no down games in that first month. So Rick Tocchet is going to have one hell of a test in front of him.
How much are the fans going to boo Max Shabanov on October 25th when the Islanders come in?
Brutal. I mean, he's going
to wonder what the hell Philly's all about. He's thinking to himself, why didn't I sign there? I just got the shit booed out of me for 3 straight periods.
He better hope that he has a few goals at that point too, because otherwise he's going to, did I make a mistake? Probably. Maybe you did.
He'll never be in Cutter territory either. Like, I mean, that was just like, oh, he signed somewhere else. Big deal. It happens. But yeah,
I think the fan base,
the Boo Birds will be out that night.
I think the fan base as a whole, or like the very vocal segment on X, make of that what you will, kind of feels more like, wow, what the hell happened? Because everybody was saying that he was going to go to the Flyers and then he didn't. I don't think they even view him with as much, nearly the level of vitriol as they do, clearly, with a Gauthier who essentially said, get me the hell out of here.
Couple comments, though. The one thing that I was going to touch actually at the end of that was I was really surprised there's no Black Friday game. I know there's an Eagles game that day, but that has been a Philadelphia Flyers staple for the history of the franchise.
20 years. Well, the last 20
longer than that. I played back when they were still playing.
Yeah, but it's been 20. It was 20 consecutive seasons. Well, 19 because there was the one lockout year, but 19 consecutive seasons where they had a game scheduled on Black Friday, dating back to 2005-06. And this is the first time since then that they've not played on Black Friday at home. They are playing Black Friday.
Yeah,
at the Islanders.
It's at the Islanders. Yeah.
And that's what happens with the Eagles having a home game.
That's a brutal. Talk about a brutal week. That's a rough week.
Do you want me to bring up the full schedule here?
I'm saying November. That Thanksgiving week in November, they go on the road to Tampa and to Florida. Then they fly home for Thanksgiving, just for Thanksgiving maybe, and then you bus up to the island and then play the Devils back to back, all 4 games on the road. That's not good.
How about the Saturday night, Monday night, Tampa Bay home set?
Yeah, that's weird too. Why is Tampa playing 2 games here back to back? Does that make sense?
Like the start of a playoff series, 2 games on the road.
Well, here I actually want to take you guys to the thing that I found like kind of the most astonishing, I think, out of all of it. So they're going to play 14 back-to-backs this year, which on the surface might not sound that bad to people, but the big takeaway here is that only 2 of the 14 back-to-back sets are going to happen with both legs happening at home. It's the first set of back-to-backs they have, and it's the final set of back-to-backs they have. Which, by the way, the second set is going to be arguably the worst one. I'm going to pull it up here because that final month of the season, that April schedule they have, is against a bunch of probably playoff-bound teams. So let me bring this one up for everybody. This is the set of 14 back-to-backs. And it's kind of hard to see, I know. But Toronto and Calgary, early November. And then at the end of the year, they have Detroit. Hold on, it got cut off because of the banner. Let me move the banner. There we go. In April, mid-April, Carolina and Montreal both at home. Those are the only 2 where they're going to play both ends of the back-to-back at home. They have a bunch that are like 2 away. You have a couple where it's, at Vancouver, at Calgary. You would expect that to kind of happen. And then you have like a versus Washington at home, at the Rangers in February. 14 back-to-backs. Does that seem on par for you guys?
Yeah,
that's about right.
actually not bad. That's okay.
Yeah, that's about right. That's about right. The thing that I think another stretch of their schedule that I think the back-to-backs are what they are, but another stretch of the schedule that I think is kind of been lost in this is they have to play 9 out of 10 on the road around Christmas. So they have a 6-game homestand at the beginning of December where we're going to get sick of each other, where it's six games in 10 days, I think it is. And then they go on a 4-game road trip: Carolina, Montreal, Buffalo, New York, Rangers. They come home for 1 game against Vancouver. And then they go right back out on the road again. It's Chicago, and then out west right after Christmas, Seattle, Vancouver, Calgary, and then Edmonton the beginning of January.
Yeah.
That's 9 out of 10 where you're going to all those cities in 2 weeks. That's going to be brutal. That's going to be brutal on the body all the time you're on the plane there. And you're going somewhere for the holiday. And Bundy, most guys go home for the holiday, right? Or go spend time with family for the holiday. Christmas, they don't usually, just sit in Voorhees, right? They go somewhere.
Yeah, and again, that's a tough schedule around the holidays. And it's an important time for guys, but at the same time, I think guys are going to be looking at that December schedule. They're probably going to have their heads spinning around seeing as many games as they have on the road in and around the Christmas break. So that's tough, but that's the way it's always been for the Flyers. Post-Christmas break has always been the West Coast trip every single year as long as I can remember.
Yeah,
and
no,
then there's
go
ahead.
And that's fine. I'm not questioning the post-Christmas trip. I mean, that happens because of Disney on Ice, and they're never going to get rid of Disney on Ice here. At that time, it's one of the biggest money makers in the building, right? So that's going to be that's just going to be the way it is. But to have a 4-game road trip and then a 5th game right before Christmas too, that's the part that I don't ever remember happening. Bundy, 9 out of 10 on the road. I would have never seen my children at the holiday if that was the case when I was traveling with the team. To go 9 out of 10 on the road from December 14th through January 5th or 4th, whatever it is, that's a long time outside of away from home.
That's a long way away. Yeah.
That's also kind of what happens when in the first month of the year, they're going to play 14 games at home.
Yeah.
Right.
They got a lot of home games early.
They have a shit ton of home games. And so that's not ideal. It's far from it, We haven't
even had any time change games yet for Phillies run-ups over the year. Remember that happened last year?
There's some potential for that. I was already kind of looking at that. There's some potential for time changes, especially on Saturdays. I gotta think that maybe that Devils start at 3:00 on October 4th. That preseason game might have a different start time because of the Phillies. Potentially, they might move that one into a different time. It's a preseason game, I know, but I wonder if the 18th against Minnesota or the 25th against the Islanders, if the Phillies are still playing at that time, if those things will be changed, if those games will be changed.
By the way, I misspoke. I said 7. I think I said 14 or 17 games. It's not possible. They have 7 games in the month of October. 7 of their 41 is 17% of their home games for the entire year are going to happen in October. And again, they're against a bunch of teams that are going to probably be playoff teams or certainly in contention, even though it's early in the year. And then you have this offset where you have all these games on the road in December. It's just it is rough. There's no getting around it. Also, Poonugs is right. Thank you, Poonugs. 39 says hit the like button, Buttes. That does help. Thank you, Poonugs. Guys, can you say thank you, Poonugs?
Thank you, Poonugs. 39.
20 of their first 31 games are at home.
I mean, you better hope. You better hope Talk has these guys playing well to start the year.
That means only 21 of their last 52 are at home. That's a lot of travel after the 31st game.
Doesn't that seem unbelievably skewed?
It does.
That seems crazy.
But I understand partially why. I mean, you got to remember you have the you have the Olympic break this year, which is long,
almost 3 weeks.
Yeah, and the Sixers,
who
are getting more involved with the schedule making process now that they are 50-50 partners in the building. And so the Sixers probably want certain nights at the X that previously would have been Flyers games. So I get the sense that you're loading up in October before the NBA season begins, getting some home games there that probably you wouldn't have had otherwise because the Sixers are taking some dates. So
the Flyers should be able to pull back priority for every game Paul George misses. And since he's already having knee surgery, I like the Flyers' chances of getting things back in their favor a year from now.
I hope there's no Sixers Black Friday game. I'll lose my marbles.
I don't know when the NBA schedule comes out. I don't think it's come out yet. We'll have to look.
The NBA schedule is always the last one. I don't understand what takes so long for the NBA schedule to come out.
By the way, Greg Bondarenko here with a good point and a good question. Tuesday, January 6th, Qatar 2.0 game. Will it be as good as last year's?
Wasn't it the same date last year?
Was it the insurrection?
Really?
The insurrection game.
Yes. I think. I don't know. I would have.
I think
to
it was
go back
close.
and look.
Date-wise, I think it was close. I don't know if it was the 6th. We'll have to look.
I'm looking right now. It was January 11th.
Okay.
January 11th.
It was close enough, though.
Yeah.
I mean, this one's going to be a little bit more.
Top 3 games of the year for sure last year.
It's certainly going to be interesting, though, right? Because Trevor Zegras now plays for the Flyers. That you would think that there's going to be a little bit of extra oomph from his perspective, right, to play against a team that, I mean, I don't know if it'd be fair to say gave up on him, but he was a guy that was pretty much an untouchable for years, and then they played him at wing because they didn't think he could get it done at center. If you're 2.5 months into the season and he's playing 1C or 2C minutes for this Flyers team and they're winning games, you got to think that he's going to have a little bit extra ready for that game, right, Bundy?
100%. Absolutely. There'd be a lot of jacked up emotions again for that game, and I would expect Zegras to be nothing but totally, completely ready for that game against Anaheim. As I would expect Cutter to be a little bit more prepared for what he's going to expect. Again, that's not going to stop. That's Philly. I know that for a fact. That's never going to stop.
Correct. And did you have anything else from the schedule that you were like blown away by that you wanted to get to? How about the Rangers? Flyers don't play the Rangers for the first time until late December, right?
At least they have them at home twice this time. They only had them once at home last year.
It just feels weird. Like that. There's like an example of one of your biggest rivals, if that's how you want to refer to them. I guess it's probably somewhat fair to call them a rival. I mean, they've had more success, but like first time you're going to play them is in December. What's the date on that? I can't see.
The 20th.
20th? Yeah.
Yeah.
Wild. Seems nuts.
Home and home with Carolina is not exactly great there either. So
we might not be feeling great for the holidays. Now, if the Flyers are able to capitalize on the early what?
Scott Lawton's return is November 1st.
Circle it on the calendar.
I didn't circle that for whatever reason. I'm sorry. I didn't. It's nice. He was a great Flyer. He was a good guy for a lot of years, but that's not like a circle your schedule type of game for me. I mean, I'm circling my schedule for McDavid, like looking at those games when he comes in here. And the Flyers, that was another one of their top 3 games last year was against Edmonton. They dominated the Oilers that game and had one of their most successful wins of the year.
Here's an interesting note over in the comments section. Video guy Amadeo says they're asking season ticket holders for design opinions on the new arena. Joe Papel says, Amadeo, I told the survey we don't need a new arena. I don't think that's the answer they were looking for, Joe. Anyway.
I do have just a couple other quick notes on the schedule. Just, there are 4 Sunday games at home. Mm-hmm. 2 of them are at night, and 2 of them are during the day. One of them is at 3:30 in the freaking afternoon, which is,
they don't play a lot of afternoon games on weekends this year. I actually did this breakdown because we're looking at my son's soccer schedule, but it's 7 games total, 7 afternoon games all year on the weekend.
Yeah. Well, they don't have as many home Saturday dates as they did a year ago.
Fine.
Yeah, those were great. Those are great.
You like the afternoon games?
Oh, I do too.
I think they're the best. Yeah.
Yeah. It's an in and out. It's like get in the building, lunchtime, little hockey, and get out and enjoy your evening. And you still have the rest of your weekend. Like I like it. But
Danky Bud here says Avs have a weird schedule, 18 matinee games.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild.
That is wild. But yeah, I'll tell you, like that first back-to-back at home that you talked about, the Toronto-Calgary one, Saturday night, Sunday night, it just takes up your weekend. Just kills your weekend. You know.
I guess.
Yeah.
You know, that one I'm not fond of. I'll be honest. So
Allison over here asks, am I prepping the spreadsheet now that the schedule's out? Yes, you are, Allison.
Yes, that's correct.
Allison is the best. She runs.
Yeah, she did.
She
a great
runs
job.
our predictions contest.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
There were a couple of other things that I wanted to get to. One of them has nothing to do with the Flyers. I told you guys about it before the show. Do you want to go to that now?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So all this conjecture has been out there about like the NCAA players being able to go there now and what that's going to mean for other leagues. And the WHL commissioner went on a podcast and he had one of the weirdest quotes I can remember hearing from somebody at that level. He went on the Pipeline show and talked about the difference between playing in NCAA versus being in the WHL. So we're going to throw to this really quick. And Bundy, I imagine that you have a lot to say about it. Let's go over to, again, this is the commissioner of the WHL talking about the quote-unquote business class of the NCAA. All right, let's throw over to that now.
I know people who, have flown coach their whole life and then had an opportunity to get upgraded and they sat in business class. Do you know how hard it is to go back to coach once you've sat in business class? Well, the American Hockey League versus the NCAA environment, I'm not sure that playing a Friday, Saturday schedule and then pumping iron and drinking smoothies all week is necessarily the best segue into what the AHL grind is like.
Okay, so Bundy, I kind of want to let you loose there, but this idea that lifting, playing on the weekends, drinking smoothies all week doesn't get you ready for the NHL. Your thoughts?
Well, there's been lots of guys that have played on the weekends, and I didn't drink smoothies. I drank other things usually during that time off, but that was another era for me. I understand what he's saying. I don't quite understand what the point is because there's so many guys that have gone and played the college route that have had incredible careers and have made the adjustment to the American League or the National Hockey League. It looks like somebody who's angry that they're losing their star player from the league. It'd be like in 1982 if the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League lost Mario Lemieux out of the blue. I understand it hurts. It's tough to swallow, a tough pill to swallow. But at the same time, I don't think it has any justification at all about what a player makes of himself, whether he leaves major junior hockey or college hockey. I don't think it matters. I think it's what you do when you get there. Everybody that you talk to that's played college, I was a guy that played like 36 or 40 games and made the jump to 82 games, which is a lot. But I did it. I figured it out. I figured out how to get more rest, and a lot of guys will help you do that. So. I see somebody there just with some sour grapes, and I understand that from their standpoint, from a business standpoint. But at the same time, he's wrong. He's completely wrong.
And I'm completely in agreement with Bundy on this because just because you play a lighter schedule of games doesn't necessarily mean you're less prepared to play. Right. I like that. I don't think that's translate. Those kids are working a lot harder in the week leading up to their games when they play than the kids that are playing up in junior. And you're playing against guys that are adults. There are people in college who are 20, 21, 22 years old playing collegiate hockey. Mm-hmm. Whereas in junior, you're playing against 16-year-olds sometimes. It's a lot different. It's a much easier game to play up there. So, yeah, you play 70 games, 72 games, whatever it is that you play in junior, Canadian junior. That's fine, but I also don't think that it's nearly as taxing on those kids as it is to play in the NCAA.
Yeah, you got to do your schoolwork. And a lot of the kids in junior are still in high school. A lot of the kids still are just finishing up their last year of high school. But I agree. There's a lot of work that has to be done in college, and there's a grind to college as well. It doesn't involve 12-hour bus rides, and and the team bonding that he also mentioned, you're still going to be able to have plenty of time to team bond with your college teammates. It was a really bad take, and I actually feel bad for the guy from a sense that he's losing a guy like McKenna, because that's a real business chip, a guy to have in your hip pocket. But at the same time, he's going to play against older guys, and I think he's going to develop actually better than he would playing in major junior.
He's upset about losing McKenna. We're upset about losing intern Andrew, who's apparently trying to sign on the dotted line to become the personal intern for Gavin McKenna. Well, now what? What are we going to do? What are we going to do? There was another little bit of news that came out, and it had to do with the Phantoms. They welcomed John Snowden as their head coach. In addition to that, Nick Schultz was brought on as an assistant coach, as was Terrence Wallen. So you have a new coaching staff. And I know that for a long time, when LePerriere was initially relieved of his duties, or he's still with the organization, but when they made the decision to move on from him behind the bench, people started saying, which of the good old boys are the Flyers going to hire? What are they going to do now? He got made an advisor right end. That was the thing, the generic advisor tag was kind of added to LePerriere. They went somewhat outside the organization. Then they went to somebody in Wallen that's had a previous relationship with Briere. You have Nick Schultz, who's been around this team and this organization before. Any big takeaways there, guys, on those hires? What it could mean for the Phantoms and all that?
No, I don't have any huge takeaway. I mean, Snowden was an assistant coach with them last year, so he's familiar with the team already and everything. I think this is a trial run for him. I think that they like him. Let's see how it works out for him. Give him a season and see what happens. I still think that there is an ultimate desire to bring someone else in that's currently under contract elsewhere. That might happen down the line. And this is kind of a transition season. But if Snowden goes out and has a really good year as the head coach there, then maybe that change doesn't happen, right? So it's an opportunity for him. Wallen, like you said, he has a history with Danny from when Danny was running the show with the Maine Mariners in the ECHL back when they were a Comcast Spectacor entity. That was Briere's first gig, for lack. Right? I mean that was his first thing, is kind of learning how to run a team. Came running the Maine Mariners, and he brought Wallen in as a player. And then, was talking to him back then, and Wallen said he was wanting to get into coaching. And so then he kind of got into coaching at Maine. But Danny always kind of kept tabs. And so he brought him in, it's not a massive change for the Phantoms, but it's definitely fresh opinions, younger opinions. And I think that they're going to, if the organization sends prospects to the Phantoms for the postseason run this year, this group will play them big minutes. And I think that's kind of what the idea is. They like for when they have their prospects playing at the end of the regular season or in the playoffs with the Phantoms, the goal is for them to play the big moments, not necessarily the veteran AHL guys, which kind of is what hurt the Phantoms last year, maybe ultimately cost LePerriere his job as a coach there.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I have one other thing that I wanted to get to. I did not run this by you guys before, but it is interesting. So I don't know if you guys paid attention to Matvei Mishkov and what he's been doing this offseason, but he was over playing in a 3v3 tournament in Russia. And then there was the game where the essentially NHL All-Star Russian players took on KHL All-Stars. And in that game, he scored a Michigan, which was funny because only a few days prior he had said he's done with the Michigan. He's not going to do it anymore.
Yeah,
or it's certainly not something that he's going to work on. What?
Did you see the pace of play when he did the Michigan? I could have done the Michigan.
It looked like an NBA All-Star game. Yeah, it wasn't.
There was nobody on him, nobody pushing him or anything. I mean, it's great. The guy's got a wicked talent. I mean, there's no doubt about it. But there was nobody on him at all.
The reason that I bring it up,
where was the goalie hugging the post?
Nor was the goalie. No,
no, there was plenty of space. But the reason that I bring it up is because Mishkov was interviewed over in Russia, and he was asked about playing with Trevor Zegras. And so Obviously, it's in Russian. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll get to see the captions. If you're listening in the podcast, we will kind of break it down. But there was something interesting in here and like something kind of playful that I think is ultimately going to be like one of those things that even if the results aren't there initially in a very tough month of October, you start to kind of put together what this team is going to look like. So let's go over to this interview that Mishkov did. It's a short one. Here we go.
Где легче лакросс забивать? Здесь или в большом хоккее?
А я что-то уже давно лакросс не забиваю. Уже забыл, что такое, честно. Там.
Так, подожди,
Сейчас Зеграс приедет, покажешь мне, как это делается.
Кто тебе отбил желание забивать лакроссы?
Да никто, просто сколько я пару раз пытался сделать, это не получалось, и, в принципе, все, как бы сейчас
Ты не забросил эту идею?
Да нет, что, время будет. Потренируюсь еще немного, и дай бог, в следующем сезоне забью.
Ладно, вот сейчас за Зиграса зашел разговор. Он тебе уже звонил, там, или ты ему, то, что его поменяли в Филадельфию, там, какой-то челлендж вы уже там придумали, нет, между собой?
Да не, если честно, еще не было с ним разговора, просто я увидел, что его обменяли, как бы, и он там какое-то интервью дал про меня хорошее, вот, и, в принципе, еще так лично с ним не общались в дальнейшем.
So, two parts to that. The first part is that he said it's been so long since he's actually scored in Michigan that he thinks he's just going to be done with it. And then, again, about a week later, he scores one in this All-Star game. Yes, not the highest competition, not the spectacle that maybe some people were hoping for. Certainly not going to impress anybody who's, like, into hard-nosed hockey. But talking about the fact that, like, you know, he kind of jokes about Zegras maybe telling him or teaching him how to do it again. I think part of it got cut off there. But there is something interesting, right? Like, we have collectively covered some pretty bad Flyers teams. And even Bundy, before you joined the show, and it was just Ant and I, we've covered some really bad Flyers teams that don't have a lot of high upside, a lot of high-end prospects. And so when you're losing, it's not even like you could look to the silver lining of like this next generation. In the case of this team, between like a Zegras who's a change of scenery guy and is still young, in a Mishkov that had a really impressive rookie season, a Martone who might make the team, and Alex Bump who has a chance to make a team, it does kind of feel like, if nothing else, this team might be fun to cover, even if the results aren't there initially in October. Like, do you guys allow yourselves to just, I don't know, feel like there might at least be some fun stuff to cover with this team, even if they're not great?
Well, I've thought about the reconstruction of it, and the team is getting better. I mean, when you look at it on paper, again, I don't know the results on the ice until the season starts, but on paper, they're a better team. They've improved. They've gotten some skill in here. They're going to have guys a year older that have the experience of having played last year. And you know what else? Don't decry this, but a lot of these guys played for John Tortorella. You get a guy like that fucking coaching you and up your ass the whole time. You're gonna be a lot better settled when a guy like Rick Tocchet comes in and coaches you, because you've already been in the worst of the pea soup with a guy that probably was all over you all the time, to now you have a guy that's more of a coach's or a player's coach that you can go in and openly have a conversation with. I think
he's not a pushover. He's also not a pushover of a player's coach, though, because I think a lot of times that tag ends up going on to somebody who's viewed as like not having the gravitas, I guess, to go into the locker room and like crack some skulls. It feels like Tocchet does have that.
Oh, he does.
Because he's laced up the skates. Like, it's a little bit different than like maybe how we used to view like maybe a Vigneault, or even like when Scott Gordon was here as an interim coach, viewed more as players, coaches, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and he did play. I mean, like Torts could hardly skate. It was like Hitchcock. Like, they couldn't skate, and it's kind of hard to sometimes look at them when they're telling you in your face that this is what you need to do, and you're like, dude, you can't fucking skate. Why am I listening to you? But you had to, because they were good coaches. But anyway, I just wanted to make sure I got that sentiment out there, Anthony. Get a smile off your face. There are guys like that, though. Yeah, they literally can't skate, but they know everything about the game, and that's
I don't know if you guys. That's actually funny that you said that too, and I don't know if I'll be able to pull it up here fast enough. But Sean Avery, everybody remember Sean Avery. Most Flyers fans hated Sean Avery. He like went off on a rant on his show about Torts, and it was the same thing. It was about like this guy. If you like even blew air his way, he'd fall over. He'd fall off his skates. So it's just funny the timing of yeah. So the timing of that's pretty funny.
Definitely was not going to be winning any figure skating awards. That's for sure.
Well, it's not the mousecapades or the icecapades, right?
Just while you're looking that up, I'll throw this at you. Like, I agree with Bundy. They're going to be a better team. I think they're going to be a better offensive team than they were a year ago. And not like overwhelmingly better, but they're going to be better. The thing that I still have the pump the brakes on the excitement slightly is still don't love the goaltending. I don't. I think Sam Erson's a backup goalie in the NHL. The Flyers are banking on having somebody be able to platoon with him, and that Erson won't be leaned on as heavily as he was last year. And when he's in that situation, then he's better, and maybe that's the case. But I don't know about Dan Vladar. That was the one name that I was kind of, I looked at what they did here at free agency, and I went, yeah. Like I wasn't sure. Like I looked at him, like, all right, who knows? Maybe this guy comes in and surprises us. But there was nothing that I saw with Dan Vladar that made me go, "Oh, that's an upgrade."
Yeah, he had a good end
finish
of
the year. Yeah,
he had a good end with Calgary as they were trying to make the playoffs. That's maybe where you try to find a silver lining.
Yeah,
I mean, have we talked since the acquisitions were made, Dvorak and Vladar?
Well,
I think we did. We sort of did, right?
The last show we did was the draft, and then we did get together to do at Dev Camp to record stuff, but it wasn't
That's
live.
right. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know what people thought was going to happen because it seems like Flyers Twitter's kind of calmed down a little bit in like the week and a half that's followed. But there just seemed to be so many people who were like unbelievably pessimistic. And as we know, I tend to be the most negative, aka realistic one, like when it comes to this team. And like, I can't even be upset with the offseason they had. This isn't the offseason that they get, guys. You have a ton of cap space coming up in 2026. The only criticism I have of like, Dvorak's fine. The AAV doesn't matter because it's a 1-year deal. Vladar on 2 years, could you have been better off pursuing an Alex Lyon? I don't know. But like, you didn't make any terrible commitments. You didn't take on any bad contracts to try to get a better asset around the draft. All this cap space comes up next year. The only concern I have, Ant, is you're putting a lot of eggs, presumably in the 2026 free agent class basket. And if those guys are to re-sign with their teams, or if those guys are to really hone in on 2 or 3 squads, and this team doesn't make the playoffs, and they end up in the lottery again, which I don't think they will, it's going to be kind of hard to get meetings with those guys, isn't it? Or are they going to really bank on the idea that players really want to come hear out what a rebuilding team with Jonesy, Briere, and Tocchet have to offer? Like, where do you land there?
They're going to take the swings, and I think that they feel like having the personalities running the show that are so well liked around the league, but by that I mean Keith Jones and Rick Tocchet specifically. Not to say that Danny's disliked, because he's not. It's just it's different when you're the general manager as opposed to who's putting the contracts together than the guy you're going to play for or the president of the team who's glad handing everybody. I think that they feel like there's enough goodwill out there with those guys to get people to want to come play here, that people will want to come. And whether you land any of the biggest names, the biggest fish, whether they're actually there or not, I still think there'll be some. Like will McDavid re-sign in Edmonton? Maybe.
No.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I won't say
they better
no.
get a better goalie. They better get a different goalie.
If they won the cup in one of those 2 years, I think he would have been gone.
Yeah.
You think he would have been more likely to leave if they had won one?
I do. Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. I mean, so like, that there's that. Makar's probably going to go back to Colorado. Like, but I look at a guy like Kaprizov and I say, what's Minnesota going to do there? Right? Like, that's one that I go, maybe. Maybe.
Chuck Fletcher would die on the inside wherever the hell he's holed up at that point, right? Oh, I could have had my guy.
He's with the Devils, right? I think he's still advising the Devils or helping out up the turnpike. So,
sure.
Yeah. But yeah, like there's other names that are going to be out there. It's not like they're all going to re-sign. Like, I think there will still be players, and the Flyers are going to try and land one. Whoever it is that that they go after, they're going to go after. But and it's going to be more than one. Like they're close to $50 million under the cap for next year?
It's a lot of money. I mean, a lot of teams are going to have space. They're going to be, I think, near the top in terms of cap space available.
Yeah.
My concern, just to be clear, isn't that they aren't willing to take the swing. It's just, all right, like if McDavid and Makar come off the board, which you expect them to, I think that there's a good chance McDavid's going to go elsewhere or seriously entertain the idea. You don't make that comment at the end of the season that, well, I'm going to talk to my agent and decide, what's best for my family. Like, you don't say that shit if you are 100% like sold on being a lifelong Oiler, in my opinion. I could be wrong. if those guys are off the board, it doesn't mean that the rest of the free agents stink, but like you have to imagine that like Briere, Jones, Tocchet want to be able to get in a room with those guys, regardless of what happens. If they just flat out re-sign, then you start having that cascading effect. Does a Kaprizov re-sign? Does he only look at if like Toronto can make space, if Vegas can make space, like those kind of teams again? I don't know. That's the concern. Yeah. You want those guys to hit free agency, I guess is the point. And it didn't feel like free agency really happened this year, right? Like even Marner. I mean, Toronto claims that, there was a backdoor deal as long ago as a year ago with Vegas, but like it never felt like free agency got going this year. It was just guys were off the board almost instantaneously. You don't want that to happen if you're the Flyers next year, I guess is my point.
No, but I don't think it will. I think there'll be more names that suddenly become – and like you could suddenly get into the trade market even a little bit more because you could trade for contracts. And you can go after RFAs next year because you have the cap space and you can offer more money than maybe another team can. Like there's more options than just the 5 or 6 big names that are out there. I keep saying – everybody's saying that with Quinn Hughes, but – Quinn Hughes isn't a free agent next year. I think it's 2 years. He's 2 years away.
Yeah, I think he's 2.
If I'm not mistaken.
I don't know. I thought didn't Zegras say to us that he's a free agent next year? Listen, Zegras is here. He's got some friends on the team. He liked playing under Tocchet. He was apparently devastated when Tocchet left. I mean, there you go. There you go. If you're gonna try to manifest something into the universe, that there are worse things to try to manifest than that. Poonugs here with a good point. Hughes has all his best friends and his favorite coach on the team. We may have some pull. See, there you go.
He's a free agent in 27.
Okay, so maybe he lets it be known to Vancouver. I don't think I'm going to re-sign here.
Yeah,
try to get something for me.
I guarantee you, he's going to try to play with his brothers first and foremost. Whether that happens or not, we'll see.
Yeah,
but that's what I think will happen. Why not?
Yeah.
I mean, you get a chance to play with your brothers.
Sure. And I saw a comment here, and this has nothing to do with hockey, but it does have something to do with something that you wrote today. And then I think we're going to wrap. I saw Joe Papel, I think, put something out there about you guys need to do a show at La Sicilia. And there is something that happened. And Bundy, I know you have to jump here. If you want to jump now, you certainly can. But La Sicilia came up, and you wrote a story today. It was really sad. Former Eagle passed away. At 38 years old, Brian Bremen passed away at 38. He made a critical special teams tackle in Super Bowl 52 to pin the Patriots within the 8-yard line. But you got to meet Bremen and had a really special night. And I think that, especially given the sadness around it and how people always look for a positive in a story, I want you to kind of take the floor here. Give people an idea about what you wrote there and the interaction that you got to have with this guy.
Yeah, and if you want to read it, it's sitting on Pattison right now, and it's an interesting story because I didn't know Brian Bremen before this night. It was in 2016, and I was doing a podcast. Well, it was before it was called a podcast. I was doing an online radio show with Rob Motti, former Philadelphia sports writer, is based in Florida now. He's the national NFL writer for the Associated Press these days, and we were trying to kind of grow the show, and my sister and her husband had opened a restaurant, had opened La Sicilia, and out in Oxford, and they had just built on that banquet room where we held our live show.
We might have to do one this year too.
Yeah, and they wanted to kind of promote it more, and we wanted to promote the radio show. So I go, what can we do together? And my sister said, bring a couple Eagles out. Well, I didn't have contacts with the Eagles, but Rob really did. And he asked around, and nobody was willing to drive out to Oxford from NovaCare. It's an hour and 20 minutes from the NovaCare spot, except one guy. It was Brian Bremen. And Brian Bremen came out, and we said to him, hey, 20 minutes on the show, sign some autographs, take a couple pictures, and you're free to go. And Brian Bremen stayed all night. He stayed not when I say all night, not just for the entirety of the show and took every picture and signed every autograph. He helped us close the place down. He was carrying glassware back to the kitchen. He did shots with the staff after the night was over as a celebratory, hey, thanks for having me out here. He sat down at the bar with my dad and my uncle and talked football and life for a half hour by himself, just them sitting over at the bar. Like this was a guy who I didn't know at all and didn't know our family, the restaurant, nothing. And he made an entire night out of it with us. That's a photo from Rob Motti put out today of us doing it there back in 2016. Just an incredible guy. And I never got to talk to him again after that night. That was my only experience with him. But I will never forget that night. My family will never forget that night. And it's a real sad loss to lose a guy so young, 38 years old, Brian Brayman. And rest in peace, Brian. But that was a really, really cool thing for him to do that he did not have to do. And he did it for some people. Think about it. I mean, you guys know Oxford, PA is so far away. When are professional athletes going out to a small little restaurant that far away, right? And this guy was an active player who took the time to go out there and do it. So really, really
great.
Cool of him. Yeah.
Rest
really
in peace. Yeah, that's a sad story, Anthony. Thanks for sharing that. Makes us get a little bit more appreciation for who he was and what he did. That's great stuff, man. Really good.
Yeah. Really, really cool. Really cool.
I think that's probably a good place to wrap up. I don't know if there's anything else you guys want to get to. I think that's probably the best thing. I don't know if you guys saw this, by the way. We're not going to go. You know how, like, when we watch Kiss Cam and everything at Wells Fargo Center about how things can go awry?
The X, my friend. The X. There's
You,
no more
you guys.
sign-up as
Well,
Wells
I'm
Fargo.
saying at Wells Fargo Center, sometimes things went awry, but not at Xfinity Mobile Arena. You guys saw the Coldplay thing, right? Did you see the Coldplay thing that happened?
Dude, I just saw that today. That is unbelievable. What they should have done, if you can play it, they should have pretended that it didn't happen. Just stay right in the same position.
Yep.
They killed themselves doing that.
So so for those who missed it, they go to a camera where they pan in. Now I'm going to show you guys an angle you might not have seen of this guy and this lady. I would guess what, guys, 50s, mid 50s. Would that be fair?
Early to mid 50s. Yeah.
Okay. And so the guy has his arms wrapped around the lady, and then they're on camera. They notice it, and then, well, calamity happens. I'm going to bring it up because this is one of the crazy, and the angle, and the reason that you guys are going to get is because not everybody got the commentary from the lead singer of Coldplay. So the angle I'm going to show you is the singer, and I want you to hear what he has to say as these two people part ways. Okay, so you can see them over here. This is the couple, or at least now exposed as a couple. But let's just watch it unfold.
Oh, look at these two.
Now, as you saw, the man ducked. I mean, he hit the ground like he got sniped. She turned around. Now listen to what the singer has to say.
Either they're having an affair or they're really shy.
Either they're having an affair or they're really shy. Okay.
I'm not quite sure what to do. Take my broccoli? Okay, all right.
Okay. So it turns out, and we don't take pleasure in this because, but they were both married and not to each other. It was a CEO of a company and the head of HR. And apparently the lady next to them was the vice president of that company as well, who then clearly knew that this. Oh boy. And boy, did people go nuts. They were commenting on their LinkedIns. They found this man's wife. And imagine, I feel horrible for her. She wakes up in the morning and there's all these strangers commenting on her Facebook, your husband's a sleaze. Oh, guys, Bundy, I think you're right. I think if that happens, you just act cool. Play it cool. Hopefully nobody figures it out. But I've never seen something like that blow up the way that this did. This is like the worst case scenario.
It was like a movie. It was like a comedy. Watching that happen, it was unbelievable.
So good.
Absolutely wild. So anyway, I wanted to
Where
try
was
to end
that
here on a
concert,
laugh.
Russ? Where was that
Boston.
concert?
It happened in
Boston.
Boston. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that I finally saw that video late in the afternoon. I was like, oh, you have to get it with the singer's reaction and the fact he goes, either they're having an affair or they're just shy. Bingo, bango, bongo. He was right. So anyway, I think that's a good place to end the show today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you to everybody who tuned in live on YouTube, Facebook, and X. We will have the interview with Porter Martone. We're going to drop it on Friday at noon. That's where we're going to drop it. Friday at noon. It'll also go in the podcast feed. And we're going to roll out one of those Dev Camp interviews each week, which will hopefully kind of, fill that void in your lives that is missing Flyers content. So we will have that for you. We'll be back next Thursday. Apparently, Ant is going to bring a Flyers prospect on who likes musical theater. Will they sing a duet? I have no idea. I kind of hope not, but who knows? Anything could happen. Maybe Bundy's going to warm up the Golden Pipes and have those going as well. I don't know.
As I said to Russ when I first pitched this to him, I said, this could turn out as a complete disaster, or it could be one of the greatest interviews we've ever done. It could be either one. We don't know. We'll figure that out as it happens.
Wild stuff.
Yeah.
Well,
Good stuff, guys.
We'll be back next week. Bundy, have anything going on with the Flyers or any appearances or anything coming up this weekend?
But I encourage everybody, if they get a chance, to follow hockeyhotstove.com, hockeyhotstove.com. Me and Bill Meltzer. Bill Meltzer is the head of that, and we're getting it's some seriously good, great, comprehensive stuff for forums, blogs, all team content around the league. So if you haven't signed up and subscribed yet, go to hockeyhotstove.com and do me that favor. Thank you.
Anthony, get your plugs in.
I'm in the Facebook Messenger chat group for Hockey Hot Stove. It's wild.
Wow.
I've commented in there. I've gotten in it. Yeah, Bill and I have been in there, commenting, mixing it up with the peeps. It's been good.
It's like the Wild West.
Yeah, it's good. Good
Thanks.
stuff.
Thanks, Anthony.
And is there an episode of Fighting Words tomorrow?
Should be. Yeah,
Okay.
Bob and I haven't finalized it yet, but it should be tomorrow. Yes.
I look forward to you guys going live at like 7 a.m. without giving me any info to get the YouTube set up.
It'll
It's
probably
great.
be 7:30 in the morning. It'll probably be 7:30 in the morning, yeah.
All right. I'll be back on Friday afternoon with the Russ Joy Show. You can find it on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. So we'll keep this going into the weekend. We'll be back next week. Until then, this has been Snow the Goalie, the Only Flyers podcast. Find Ann on Twitter at SanFilippo. Bundy's over there at Therien6. I'm on there at Joy on Broad. Thanks again. Find us wherever you get your podcasts. We will talk to each and every one of you next week here on Snow the Goalie, the Only Flyers podcast. Have a good one, everybody.